I was more scared than he was, and nobody knew it. But I was. I didn't know what I was going to do.
Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin were two of the biggest stars of their generation. Alongside Sammy Davis Jr., Joey Bishop, and Peter Lawford, they formed the legendary Rat Pack, transforming Las Vegas into the entertainment capital of the world. Together, they created unforgettable performances that became part of Hollywood history. On stage, Frank's powerful voice blended perfectly with Dean's smooth, laid-back style. Their chemistry felt effortless, making audiences believe they were watching two lifelong friends simply enjoying themselves. Fans loved them, casinos sold out, and the Rat Pack came to represent glamour, friendship, and the carefree spirit of an entire era.
What I do with my life is of my own doing. I live it the best way I can.
Off-stage, their bond appeared just as strong. They shared dinners, vacations, parties, and countless laughs. Photos of them together only reinforced the image of an unbreakable friendship. To the public, they seemed more like brothers than co-workers. That made what happened next almost impossible to understand. Without warning, Dean Martin walked away from Frank Sinatra. The phone calls stopped. Invitations disappeared. Public appearances together became rare, leaving Hollywood wondering what had gone so wrong. Those closest to them insisted it wasn't a slow drift apart. According to several friends, everything came down to one explosive decision that Dean simply could not forgive. But to understand why, you first have to understand the man Dean Martin really was. Long before he became the smooth-talking king of cool, Dean Martin was a tough Italian-American kid growing up in Steubenville, Ohio. Born Dino Paul Crocetti on June 7, 1917, he was raised by hard-working Italian parents, Gaetano and Angela Crocetti. His father worked long hours as a barber, while his mother held the family together. Money was scarce, and fame seemed impossible.
I've been criticized on many, many occasions because of acquaintances and what have you.
Growing up alongside his older brother, William, Dino quickly learned that surviving in a rough neighborhood meant standing your ground. By age 15, he was boxing under the name Kid Crochet. Unable to afford proper equipment, he often fought bare-knuckled, leaving him with a broken nose, scars, and constant bruises. Years later, Dean famously joked that he had won all but 11 of his 12 fights. Whether true or not, the joke perfectly captured the dry humor that audiences would later adore.
I was figuring on going back to dealing blackjack.
Eventually, Dino moved to New York, chasing bigger dreams. Sharing a tiny apartment with aspiring singer Sonny King, the two struggled to make ends meet. To earn money, they even charged spectators to watch them fight bare knuckle inside their apartment. There were no gloves, no referee, and no ring. Just two young men literally fighting for a chance at a better future. After boxing, Dino found work in an illegal gambling casino hidden behind a tobacco shop. He started as a stock boy before becoming a roulette stickman and croupier. It wasn't the future he wanted, but it kept him going while he pursued his real passion. He knew he had a voice. Performing as Dino Martini, inspired by opera star Nino Martini, he began singing with local bands, taking inspiration from performers like Harry Mills and Perry Como. His warm voice and effortless style quickly stood out. Before long, he landed a spot with the Ernie Mackay Orchestra, and audiences began noticing the young singer whose relaxed charm would soon make him one of America's biggest stars.
I don't do those things to have anybody follow me in doing that same thing, is what I mean.
Then came another turning point. In 1940, while working with Cleveland bandleader Sammy Watkins, Dean received a simple piece of advice that changed his life forever. Change your name. Dino Paul Crocetti became Dean Martin, a name that would soon be known around the world. By 1943, Dean was performing regularly in New York, and building a reputation as one of the city's most promising young singers. His career briefly paused during World War II when he was drafted into the Army, but after about 14 months, he received a medical discharge because of a hernia. Soon after, he returned to performing with even greater determination. Success was beginning to find him, and so was love. In October 1941, Dean married Elizabeth Betty Ann McDonald, and the couple settled in Cleveland Heights. Together they had 4 children before their marriage ended in 1949. Looking back, it was remarkable that the young man who once fought for spare change had become one of America's rising entertainers. By the mid-1940s, Dean was performing night after night in New York clubs. His smooth voice, natural charm, and movie star looks attracted growing attention.
Oh, I drink, but I'm not a boozer, not an alcoholic or anything like that.
Major studios, including MGM and Columbia Pictures, knew his name, but the breakthrough he wanted always seemed just out of reach. Then fate stepped in. In August 1944, while performing at the Glass Hat Club inside New York's Belmont Plaza Hotel, Dean met a young comedian named Jerry Lewis. Their personalities couldn't have been more different. Jerry was loud and unpredictable, while Dean remained calm and effortless. According to Jerry Lewis, Dean approached him after a show and simply said, "Hey, I saw your act. You're a funny kid." That brief conversation sparked one of the greatest partnerships in entertainment history. At first, they were simply friends, 2 ambitious performers trying to build careers. But the moment they shared a stage, their chemistry was undeniable. Their performances felt spontaneous, fresh, and completely unlike anything audiences had seen before. Everything changed on July 24th, 1946. Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis made their official debut as a comedy team at the famous 500 Club in Atlantic City. It should have been the beginning of something extraordinary. Either make the act work tonight, or don't bother coming back.
Do you think your boiling point is low? Not anymore. It used to be.
With their careers on the line, Dean and Jerry rushed backstage. There was no script, no director, and no producer to save them. They had only their instincts. In minutes, they reinvented the entire act. Dean would remain the calm, smooth singer, while Jerry would create complete chaos around him. When they returned to the stage, Jerry burst out as a clumsy busboy, crashing into furniture, dropping dishes, and interrupting Dean's songs. Through it all, Dean stayed perfectly composed, singing as if nothing unusual was happening. The contrast made every moment even funnier. The audience erupted with laughter. By the end of the night, the same crowd that had greeted them with silence was cheering wildly. In a single performance, Martin and Lewis had discovered the formula that would make them international stars. From that moment on, they became one of America's hottest acts. Every show felt unpredictable as Jerry interrupted Dean's songs. Dean fired back with perfect timing, and the pair kept audiences laughing from beginning to end. Their popularity exploded. They headlined the famous Copacabana nightclub, packed theaters across the country, and helped redefine live comedy by blending music, improvisation, and slapstick into something completely new.
I'm not lazy. They want to think I'm lazy, but they know I work.
In 1948, they appeared on Toast of the Town, later known as The Ed Sullivan Show, performing alongside some of the biggest names in entertainment. To keep their material fresh, they hired talented young writers, including future television legends Norman Lear and Ed Simmons. Their work helped sharpen the duo's already remarkable chemistry. Success came quickly. By 1949, Martin and Lewis had their own radio show and signed with Paramount Pictures. Their first movie, My Friend Irma, launched them as Hollywood stars. More importantly, smart negotiations gave them unusual creative control over their films, television appearances, recordings, and live performances. Money followed, but their partnership had never been built on wealth. It was built on friendship. That bond seemed so strong that when Dean remarried in 1949, Jerry Lewis stood beside him as his best man. On stage, they were unstoppable. Off stage, they looked like family. But as the years passed, cracks began to appear. Dean increasingly felt he had become the straight man, existing mainly to set up Jerry's comedy while his own singing took a back seat. Small creative disagreements slowly grew into frustration, and the friendship that once seemed effortless became strained. Then came the ending few believed was possible.
I've always admired people who are gentle and who have great patience.
On July 25, 1956, almost exactly 10 years after their breakthrough at the 500 Club, Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis performed together for the final time. There was no dramatic public fight or explosive confrontation. One of the greatest entertainment partnerships in American history had come to an end, but their legacy was already secure. Together, Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis had transformed live comedy, reshaped television variety shows, and inspired generations of performers. Even after they split, their names remained forever connected. For Dean Martin, however, one chapter had closed while another was just beginning. Many believed his career would fade without Jerry Lewis. Instead, Dean proved everyone wrong. By the late 1950s, he had become a major solo star. His records topped the charts, movie offers kept arriving, and audiences fell in love with his effortless style. Dean never chased trends. He simply walked on stage, smiled, and sang with the smooth voice that made him unforgettable. Around that same time, another legendary friendship was taking shape. Waiting just off stage was Frank Sinatra. The two men had first met in the early 1940s, but it wasn't until 1958, while filming Some Came Running with Shirley MacLaine, that they became close. Behind the scenes, they discovered they shared the same humor, confidence, and relaxed attitude toward fame. A genuine friendship quickly formed. Soon, that friendship grew into something much bigger. By the end of the 1950s, Dean Martin and Frank Sinatra had joined forces with Sammy Davis Jr., Peter Lawford, and Joey Bishop, creating one of the most famous entertainment groups in American history. Ironically, they rarely called themselves the Rat Pack. The nickname originally belonged to an earlier Hollywood circle led by Humphrey Bogart and Lauren Bacall. After a long night of partying, Bacall reportedly joked that they looked like a goddamn rat pack. The name stuck, and Sinatra eventually inherited it. Dean and his friends preferred names like The Summit or The Clan. The public had other ideas. Newspapers embraced The Rat Pack, and before long the name became inseparable from the five entertainers who defined cool for an entire generation. Las Vegas became the heart of their legend. Whenever they appeared at the Sands Hotel, huge crowds filled the casino, hoping to catch a glimpse of the stars. The marquee teased audiences with messages like, "Maybe Frank, maybe Dean, maybe Sammy," promising that anything could happen. And it usually did. No two performances were ever the same. Frank might interrupt Dean's song with a joke. Sammy Davis Jr. could steal the spotlight with an incredible dance routine, while Joey Bishop and Peter Lawford kept the laughs coming through nonstop improvisation. Dressed in tuxedos and casually holding cocktails, they roasted one another without mercy. Nothing was off limits, and audiences felt like they were watching close friends having the time of their lives. But behind the laughter was something even more important. Dean Martin and Frank Sinatra quietly used their influence to challenge discrimination. They refused to perform at venues that excluded black or Jewish entertainers, making it clear that if one member of their group wasn't welcome, none of them would take the stage. It was a stand that helped push the entertainment industry toward greater inclusion during a deeply divided era. Long after the Rat Pack stopped performing together, their influence never faded. Decades later, their effortless style and chemistry inspired the Ocean's 11 remake starring George Clooney, Brad Pitt, and an all-star cast determined to capture that same timeless cool. Fans also continue to visit stories and photographs of Dean Martin's Palm Springs home, where vintage martini sets, tuxedos, and personal memorabilia preserve the memory of an unforgettable era. Dean Martin and the Rat Pack became far more than entertainers. They were a brotherhood. They rewrote the rules of show business. They were rebels in tuxedos. And for millions of fans, they still define what it means to be cool. But while Dean's career was reaching new heights, his personal life was becoming increasingly complicated. Throughout his life, Dean Martin wasn't just admired for his voice and charm. He was also one of Hollywood's most sought-after leading men, and his relationships fascinated fans almost as much as his career. It all began in 1941, when he married Elizabeth Betty Ann McDonald. Together, they welcomed 4 children: Craig, Claudia, Gail, and Deanna. During those years, Dean was still fighting to establish himself in show business while balancing the responsibilities of fatherhood. As his fame grew, however, so did the pressure on the marriage. Constant touring, late nights, and Hollywood demands gradually drove them apart. In 1949, the couple divorced. In an unusual decision for the time, Dean was awarded custody of their 4 children. Despite his busy schedule, he remained closely involved in raising them. Before long, another chapter began. Just 1 week after his divorce became final, Dean married 22-year-old model and former Orange Bowl princess, John Beager. Many expected the whirlwind marriage to be short-lived, but it became the longest relationship of his life. Together, Dean and Jean became one of Hollywood's most glamorous couples. They regularly appeared at premieres, red carpets, and exclusive events, while photographers couldn't get enough of them. They later welcomed 3 children together: Dean Paul, Richie, and Gina. Jean also embraced the role of stepmother, helping raise Dean's 4 older children and becoming the steady center of their growing family. For more than 20 years, it seemed they had everything: fame, success, a beautiful family, the perfect Hollywood life. But appearances can be deceiving. Behind the scenes, years of constant public attention and Dean's demanding career slowly placed strain on the marriage. Eventually, in 1969, Dean filed for divorce. Fans were shocked. Once again, something that had appeared unbreakable quietly fell apart. Even then, Dean never lost his trademark sense of humor. Looking back on the divorce, he joked, "It's supposed to be the gentlemanly thing to let the woman file, but I'm no gentleman." It was classic Dean Martin. Even heartbreak came with a perfectly delivered punchline. Still, despite 2 failed marriages, Dean hadn't given up on finding happiness. In 1973, he married for a 3rd time, tying the knot with Catherine Hahn, a former receptionist turned model, beginning yet another chapter in his remarkable personal life. Although Dean and Catherine never had children together, they adopted a young daughter named Sasha, who became part of Dean's growing family. Unfortunately, the marriage lasted only a few years before ending in divorce. After 3 failed marriages, Dean accepted that marriage might simply not be a permanent part of his life. He never married again. But through every divorce, headline, and personal setback, one thing never changed. Family remained the center of Dean Martin's world. Filmmaker Tom Donahue later said that despite his carefree public image, Dean valued family above almost everything else. While audiences saw the relaxed entertainer with a drink in hand, those closest to him knew a devoted father who cherished every moment he could spend with his children. That devotion would make the greatest tragedy of his life almost impossible to bear. Of all his 8 children, one held an especially special place in his heart: his son, Dean Paul Martin, known simply as Dino. Born during Dean's marriage to Jean, Dino seemed to inherit his father's charisma and ambition. He pursued music, acting, professional tennis, and eventually became a fighter pilot with the California Air National Guard. To Dean, Dino wasn't just following his path. He was creating a legacy of his own. Then everything changed. On March 21st, 1987, Dino took off on what should have been a routine military training flight over Southern California. Flying through poor weather above the San Bernardino Mountains, his aircraft suddenly disappeared from radar. Radio contact was lost. No distress call came. Search and rescue teams immediately launched a massive operation. Helicopters, aircraft, military personnel, and rescue crews searched desperately for any sign of the missing jet. Hours passed. Then, an entire day. Still nothing. As hope faded, concern spread across Hollywood. Even President Ronald Reagan, a longtime friend of Dean Martin, supported the search effort as every available resource was directed toward finding Dino. Meanwhile, Dean could do nothing but wait. Friends later recalled that he chain-smoked while staring at the telephone, hoping each ring would bring good news. Deep down, however, he feared the worst. Frank Sinatra never left his side. He understood Dean's pain better than most. Years earlier, Sinatra had lost his own mother in a plane crash in the same mountain range. Quietly standing beside his friend, Frank reportedly told him, "If there's anything I can do, pal, anything at all." But there was nothing anyone could do except wait. Desperate for answers, Dean even turned to psychics. According to reports, one psychic touched Dino's flight suit before quietly saying he was already gone. Another reportedly pointed investigators toward California's San Gorgonio Mountain, the same rugged area forever linked to Sinatra's own family tragedy. 3 agonizing days after the search began, rescue teams finally reached the crash site. Scattered across the mountainside was the wreckage Dean Martin had prayed would never be found. His worst nightmare had come true. There were no survivors. Dean Paul Martin, known to family simply as Dino, had died at just 35 years old. The loss shattered Dean Martin. Friends later said that something inside him disappeared the moment he learned his son was gone. His famous smile became rare, his quick wit faded, and the relaxed confidence that had defined him for decades seemed to vanish almost overnight. The king of cool was still alive, but many believed the man himself had changed forever. Those closest to Dean often said they never truly saw the old Dean Martin again. The entertainer who once lit up every stage now carried a sadness that applause could never erase. Frank Sinatra couldn't bear watching his friends suffer. Believing that work could help heal the pain, Frank organized a reunion tour featuring himself, Dean Martin, and Sammy Davis, Jr. He hoped that returning to the stage with old friends would remind Dean of happier days and slowly lift his spirits. It was a heartfelt idea, but it didn't work. Dean disliked almost every moment of the tour. While Frank loved packed arenas and late-night celebrations, Dean had become a different man. He no longer wanted the excitement that once defined his life. He wanted quiet. He wanted family. More than anything, he wanted peace. Instead, he found himself standing beneath bright lights, performing for crowds he no longer felt connected to. It quickly became clear that something was wrong. Dean occasionally forgot lyrics he had sung for years. Some jokes fell flat, and during one performance, he even tossed a lit cigarette into the audience, shocking fans. The carefree stage persona people once loved no longer seemed entertaining. It looked painful. Audiences weren't watching a comedy legend. They were watching a grieving father trying to keep going. After one disappointing performance in New York, Frank Sinatra wanted to continue the evening celebrating, with Sammy Davis Jr. joining him as usual. Dean quietly wished them good night. He returned to his hotel room, closed the door, and later that night boarded his private jet back to Los Angeles. He didn't make an announcement. He didn't explain himself. He simply couldn't pretend anymore. The joy that had carried him through decades of performing seemed to disappear with the loss of his son. Yet even during the darkest years of his life, one thing continued to keep him grounded: his family. Although Dino's death left a wound that never healed, Dean remained devoted to his 7 surviving children and his growing extended family. As the years passed, new relatives entered the Martin family, including Beach Boys member Carl Wilson, Olympic champion Dorothy Hamill through marriage, actress Olivia Hussey, and others connected through his children. Dean found comfort in quiet family gatherings, choosing time with loved ones over the glamorous Hollywood lifestyle he had once embraced. But time was catching up with him. Despite his famous on-stage image, the cocktails he carried were often nothing more than apple juice. His cigarettes, however, were real. After decades of heavy smoking, doctors at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center delivered devastating news in September 1993. Dean Martin had lung cancer. Surgeons believed an operation might extend his life, but it would require major surgery. After considering his options, Dean chose not to undergo treatment. Some friends believed he was simply tired. Others quietly wondered whether losing Dino had taken away his desire to keep fighting. Whatever the reason, Dean accepted his decision without seeking sympathy. By early 1995, he had almost completely withdrawn from public life. The man who once filled Las Vegas showrooms and Hollywood movie sets now spent most of his days at home, surrounded by family and a handful of lifelong friends. Then, on Christmas Day in 1995, Dean Martin died at his Beverly Hills home from acute respiratory failure caused by emphysema. He was 78 years old. In a haunting coincidence, he passed away exactly 29 years after the death of his own mother. America had lost one of its last true entertainment legends. The velvet voice was gone. The effortless smile had faded. But the legacy he left behind continues to define an era of American entertainment. Yet Dean Martin's story doesn't end there. Long before his death, another relationship had quietly begun to unravel. For years, Dean Martin and Frank Sinatra had been inseparable. They were the faces of the Rat Pack, the kings of Las Vegas, and 2 friends whose bond seemed impossible to break. But behind the scenes, that friendship was slowly changing. Dean Martin valued peace. Frank Sinatra often welcomed confrontation. As the years passed, that difference became harder to ignore. Many who knew them believed one unforgettable evening pushed their friendship past the point of no return. The date was June 7th, 1966. Dean had gathered friends to celebrate his 49th birthday, unaware that the night would later be remembered as a turning point in his relationship with Frank Sinatra. The celebration took place at the famous Polo Lounge inside the Beverly Hills Hotel, one of Hollywood's most exclusive gathering spots. It was where movie stars, studio executives, and politicians regularly met, making it the perfect setting for another legendary Rat Pack evening. Dean had every reason to celebrate. By the mid-1960s, he was one of America's highest-paid entertainers, enjoying success in music, movies, television, and Las Vegas. Frank Sinatra, meanwhile, remained one of the biggest stars in the world, with sold-out concerts, hit films, and a headline-making relationship with Mia Farrow. Several members of Frank's inner circle joined the party. Among them were actor Richard Conte, later famous for playing Don Barzini in The Godfather, and Frank's fiercely loyal friend, Jilly Rizzo. Rizzo was one of Hollywood's most recognizable personalities. A former New York nightclub owner with a glass eye and countless stories, he wasn't officially Sinatra's bodyguard, but many considered him exactly that. Wherever Frank went, Jilly was usually close behind. As the group settled into a large booth, they quickly became the loudest table in the room. Laughter echoed through the lounge. Drinks kept arriving. The playful insults and colorful language that defined Rat Pack gatherings grew louder as the night went on. To them, it was just another evening among friends. Not everyone saw it that way. Sitting nearby was Frederick R. Wiseman, a wealthy businessman and former president of Hunt Foods, along with his longtime friend Franklin H. Fox. The two had spent the evening discussing family matters before stopping at the Polo Lounge for a quiet drink. Instead, they found themselves seated beside Hollywood's loudest celebration. At first, they tried to ignore the noise, but as the language became increasingly crude, Wiseman finally had enough. Leaning toward Sinatra's table, he politely but firmly asked the group to lower their voices. According to several accounts, he reminded them that ladies were present and asked them to show more consideration for the other guests. It was a request Frank Sinatra clearly didn't appreciate. At first, Sinatra reportedly thought Frederick Wiseman was joking. Then he realized he wasn't. Frank fired back immediately, and the tension between the two men quickly became impossible to ignore. What happened next remains one of the most disputed incidents of Sinatra's career. According to Frank's version, Wiseman suddenly punched him in the face, leaving him with a black eye. Sinatra insisted he never hit back, claiming Wiseman simply lost his balance and crashed into a nearby cocktail table. Others told a very different story. Franklin Fox later claimed Sinatra made an anti-Semitic remark and mocked Wiseman's glasses. According to Fox, Frank initially walked away before returning moments later, furious. Several people at Dean Martin's table reportedly tried to calm him down. They urged him to let it go. They begged him not to make things worse. But according to this version, Sinatra grabbed one of the Polo Lounge's famous pink telephones and threw it at Wiseman, striking him with tremendous force. Other witnesses described complete confusion. People shouting, guests standing, friends trying to separate everyone, glasses breaking. No one entirely certain what happened. But every version agrees on one thing. Frederick Wiseman suddenly collapsed to the floor. The room fell silent. Fox rushed to his friend's side while shocked guests watched in disbelief. Within moments, hotel security arrived as panic spread throughout the Polo Lounge. Dean Martin's birthday celebration had turned into a nightmare. As the chaos unfolded, members of the Rat Pack quietly left the hotel before police arrived. Paramedics rushed Wiseman to the hospital while stunned diners looked on. Dean returned home much earlier than expected. His daughter, Dino, immediately sensed something was wrong. Instead of laughing about another unforgettable night, Dean appeared shaken and unusually quiet. When she asked what had happened, he simply replied, "Frank blew a fuse tonight. He just couldn't let it go." When she asked if anyone had been hurt, Dean answered quietly, "I don't know. I don't know anything." But the story wasn't over. Although doctors initially treated Wiseman and sent him home, his condition worsened overnight. The next morning, he was rushed back to Mount Sinai Hospital, where doctors discovered he had suffered a fractured skull. Emergency surgery followed. Soon after, Wiseman slipped into a coma, leaving doctors uncertain whether he would survive. What had started as a celebrity argument had suddenly become a serious criminal investigation. When Beverly Hills Police Chief Clinton Anderson learned of Wiseman's condition, he ordered a full investigation into the incident. This wasn't just another Hollywood argument. A respected businessman was fighting for his life because Frank Sinatra was one of America's biggest stars, with powerful political connections and long-standing rumors linking him to organized crime. The case attracted enormous public attention. Police interviewed hotel employees, security staff, and dozens of witnesses. The problem? Almost no two accounts matched. Some claimed Wiseman threw the first punch. Others insisted Sinatra became enraged and attacked him. Still others believed the businessman simply fell during the chaos. With so many conflicting stories, investigators were never able to determine exactly what happened inside the crowded Polo Lounge that night. By the time police wanted to question them, both Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin had already left town. As newspapers filled with dramatic headlines, the story quickly became one of Hollywood's biggest scandals. But regardless of who was right or wrong, the damage had already been done, not only to public reputations, but to one of Hollywood's most famous friendships. Dean Martin had always preferred quiet evenings, family, and avoiding unnecessary conflict. Frank Sinatra, on the other hand, seemed to attract controversy wherever he went. Over time, those differences became impossible to ignore. According to several people who knew them, their friendship never fully recovered after Dean's birthday celebration. Some said Dean gradually stopped returning Frank's phone calls. Others believed he simply decided that no friendship was worth living with constant drama. Whether that single night ended their bond or merely accelerated a friendship already drifting apart remains a mystery. Frederick Wiseman eventually recovered after a long rehabilitation, and in the end, no criminal charges were ever filed. Like many Hollywood controversies of the era, the story slowly faded from the headlines, but Dean Martin never forgot that birthday. He had expected an evening celebrating with one of his closest friends. Instead, he walked away with memories of violence, a police investigation, and growing doubts about a friendship that once seemed unbreakable. Sometimes the brightest lights cast the darkest shadows. Now we'd love to hear your opinion. Do you think Dean Martin was right to distance himself from Frank Sinatra, or could their friendship have been saved? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss another story from Hollywood's golden age. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.